Hi all, my good friend Natalia Pogonina is doing well in the FIDE Women's World Chess Championship being played in Sochi, Russia at the moment. She had to play Zhao Xue, the third ranked Chinese woman player in the world, and she had to win with black to stay in it. So this is round 4. Let's see what happened. D4, and Natalia chose a very aggressive system, the Benko Gambit. This isn't so popular at the Super GM level, but it's a really fighting opening. And actually, I had to play against Michael Adams once in the Lloyd's Bet Masters, where Michael Adams played a Benko Gambit against me. And that's been video annotated on the channel if you want to check that out. There's some very nice positional plans for black. So it's not just about the queenside pressure. You know, there's some nice knight maneuvers at black's disposal. Let's have a look in this game what happened. White took the pawn and now took this one, so it's a clear pawn up, of course. Now in live book the most popular move is g6 here, so you don't immediately want to take, although that has been played, but g6 is pretty trendy, more trendy now. Knight c3, and now bishop takes here is fine, so waiting for that knight c3. Natalia delays a bit more, bishop g7, and here white fianchettos, g3, black castles, bishop g2, d6, knight f3, and again now bishop takes a6, very popular, over 500 games. Natalia's got some secret recipes here she's exposing. She played actually knight takes a6, so slightly different ideas, not as popular by far as bishop takes a6, but on the other hand is the opponent having to improvise now with this knight takes a6. Where is that knight going? White castles, queen b6. Black's pieces seem on the surface quite coordinated, although a pawn down. There seems to be nice queenside pressure, that nice semi-open file pressure. Rook e1. Now we see knight c7 trying to encourage e4 from white. Another idea is also knight b5 potentially to d4, especially when e4 has been played. That d4 square is gripped by this c5 pawn. This is often a common maneuver in the Benko Gambit. Here after e4, knight d7, white seems to want to try and consolidate on the queen side and show that there's a passed pawn, an extra passed pawn. a4 is played, bishop a6, rook a3, trying to keep things solid on the queen side. For the moment, yes, white has technical advantage, but black seems to have a very nice harmonious position. Look at the two bishops and the two knights here, that b file. It just looks as though there's dynamic potential in the black pieces at the moment. An easy coordination here with rook fb8. This bishop in particular is tied down for the moment. Queen c2, knight e5, not minding the trade of this knight. It weakens white on the d4 square to get rid of this knight here. Knight takes, bishop takes, so white slightly weakened on d4, and in fact if this knight can ever get to d4, that would be interesting as well. And in fact after knight d1 now, in this regard Natalia plays e6, so she's first weakened the d4 square and she wants to plonk a knight on d4, a bit like that. If d takes, black would be very close to equalizing here with knight takes e6, so things like knight d4 then on the cards. So white dare not take on e6. White actually after e6 plays bishop d2, so bishop d2, and we have bishop d4. And this looks kind of aggressive now on f2, as though c4 might be on the cards. Bishop c3, challenging the bishop immediately. Natalia now doesn't want to move the bishop back, it's going to be exchanged off anyway. She just plays e5. This does weaken black on the dark squares a bit, and white looks at those, on the light squares a bit. White looks at those light squares with bishop h3, rook a7, and then bishop g4, as though maybe h4 h5 is on the cards. Rook ab7, bishop e2, challenging this bishop, trying to gain grip on the light squares. c4, and here white has an advantage but potentially throws it away with this next move. It's quite controversial. White played bishop takes d4 here. Very interesting moment of the game tactically. Bishop takes d4 does have a slight issue with it. If you notice, for that moment, the weakness of the last move, this piece is now unprotected, and in fact black could have made use of this fact. Guess what black could have played in this position if I give you 5 seconds starting from now. Okay, black could have played e takes d4, and these pawns are very dangerous. If bishop takes c4, then can you see the point? Queen b4 hitting c4 and e1. It's a nifty tactic. It may have been missed by Natalia. Alternatively, if we follow this through with bishop takes a6 and treat it as some sort of positional sacrifice, it's not entirely clear that black's immediately winning here, but black surely is doing well in this position. The exchange up. Okay, so let's see. In the game though, queen takes d4 was played, and white technically is doing very well here. Rook a2, soaking up the b file pressure. Knight e8, knight c3. Now rook b4. Rook d1 kicking the queen, queen b6, and white seems to be making some progress here with a5, queen c7, rook da1. So this seems to be a solid, protected, outside passed pawn. Knight f6, and now using this passed pawn, knight a4, this hook on b6, knight d7, knight b6. It's impossible to take here, otherwise the bishop is going to be lost. So Natalia has to consider her options very carefully here. She plays rook b7, and white now challenges this rook. Rook takes a4, queen takes a4, but now this does give back the pawn. Has white slipped up here? Did white want to have this position? Well, Natalia took on b6 and gets back her pawn. So is black doing badly now or not? It seems to be about equal now. If anything, black's got better chances. This pawn structure is fixed and the target, the dark squares, are weak. If the queen and rook can coordinate on f2 later, that'd be really good. Rook c1. Yes, white's idea was to get this pawn back by force. There's a nasty pin on this pawn. It seems perfectly justified, doesn't it? Well, there's the dark square counter-attack now, which black has at her disposal. She plays queen c5. This pawn is going to go after b3, yes, but now bishop b5, check, king g7, and white regains the pawn. Is that the end of the world here though? Look at where the queen is. It's a lovely blockading square on the dark squares. Difficult to evict that queen. Looking at a sensitive point f2. So bishop a6, and it looks as though now immediately rook b2 is really dangerous. Rook e1, and in this position Natalia regains her pawn with queen b4, hitting e1 and c4. King f1 protecting the rook. Bishop takes c4, regaining the pawn again, but still black's pieces are now much more active than white's. Bishop takes, queen takes, king g2, and in this position now, positionally, white has been outplayed, but now there's a tactical blow dealt out by Natalia. Can you spot it? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now, a really powerful tactical move based on white's fragile centre and king position. So 5 seconds from now, black to play. Rook b1. Yes, trying to deflect the rook away from e4. This nasty check would win the pawn back with advantage there. White dare not do that. Losing that centre pawn would be horrible. But it's a bad position now. Queen a5 defending the rook. And now Natalia puts on the pressure with queen d3. So again, if rook takes, we can take on e4 first. So white is in a difficult spot now. King h3. a mistake in a difficult position. Rook b2. How does white possibly defend this position? White seems to be overloaded now. White plays queen c7, going after d6. But the king isn't in an ideal spot on h3. Natalia takes on f2. After queen takes d6, another crushing blow in this position is played. Can you spot it? White is attacking e5 as well, though. You have to factor that in your solution. So with e5 under pressure, can you exploit the white king now on h3? If I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Okay, a fantastic move. Attacking e1, defending e5, preparing queen c8 check. White now moves the rook, and after queen c8 check is forced to resign here. This is a very, very bad position for king safety indeed. If king h4, we can take here, ouch, and then we're mating. If g4, then rook f3 check would seem sufficient. White's king safety is shot to pieces. If king here, queen takes g4, etc. That's crushing. Taking on e4, for example, at minimum, later. If king, well, there's actually a very, very simple one, which is afforded because white's not in a position to check. This is a simple approach, f6, just to play g5 here and then rook h3. So here white's getting mated. If g5, then we've got rook h3 checkmate. So g5 and rook h3. But there's also an even more incisive move in queen c3 here. So still protecting e5 and rook h3 is on the cards. So yeah, the final position, absolutely crushing, but needs still some precision on king h4. Taking this position is h6, and this position with g4 check, king h4 maybe requires another accurate move in the form of f6 or queen c3. Both of these are quite crushing. Okay, an excellently played game from Natalia. Great use of the Benko Gambit there to equalise in her match. And she had another game after, which I'd like to show you, which was, funny enough, again in the Benko Gambit. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.